Absolutely. Here's a focused 700-word expansion of the first key point from the senior health script. Let's talk strictly about the topic. Only discuss what it means, no unnecessary points. The key discussion should stay focused on the subject, and in such a way that it leaves me eager for the next page. When we think of fruit, we often think healthy, and in many cases, that's true. But for seniors, especially those concerned about muscle strength in the legs, the kind of fruit you eat can matter just as much as how much you eat. Not all fruits are equal when it comes to their effect on blood sugar, energy levels, and ultimately the muscle strength that keeps you moving. Certain fruits, especially those very high in natural sugar, can cause more harm than good over time. Grapes, bananas, mangoes, and other overly sweet fruits may seem harmless or even beneficial, but the reality is more complicated. These fruits are loaded with simple sugars, especially glucose and fructose. When consumed in excess, even as part of an otherwise healthy-looking diet, they can rapidly raise your blood sugar. This spike might be followed by a sharp crash, which leaves your body feeling drained. Seniors, who may already have decreased insulin sensitivity, are especially vulnerable to these highs and lows. This isn't just about feeling tired. It's about what happens inside your muscles during these cycles. Every muscle in your body, including the ones in your legs, depends on steady, regulated energy to function properly. Sudden sugar crashes deprive those muscles of their fuel, and over time, this robs you of leg strength. Moreover, the body's natural tendency to lose muscle mass with age, a process known as sarcopenia, becomes more severe when nutrition isn't aligned with muscle protection. Sugary fruits, by themselves, don't provide the protein, fiber, or minerals required to preserve strength. They offer quick energy, but not the sustained support that aging muscles need. And if the sugar is not used right away, through physical activity, it can be stored as fat, not as muscle fuel. Worse, it can also promote inflammation, which further weakens tissue recovery and joint function. This doesn't mean fruit is the enemy. It just means not all fruits are wise choices, especially when you're aiming to maintain leg strength, stability, and independence. The muscles in your legs are some of the largest and most important in the body. They support your balance, your mobility, and your confidence when walking or standing. The food you give them needs to match their purpose: consistent, steady, energy that avoids inflammation and supports muscle metabolism. Unfortunately, fruits that are high in sugar and low in fiber do just the opposite. You may have noticed moments when your legs feel weak for no clear reason. Maybe it's after lunch, or perhaps mid-morning. If that meal or snack involved a sugary fruit or fruit juice, it could be the cause. A temporary high from a banana or a bowl of grapes might feel satisfying, but what follows can be a steep drop in blood glucose and a corresponding loss of energy in your muscles. This pattern repeated daily can add up, silently reducing the strength and responsiveness of your lower limbs. The key lies in recognizing the role of energy stability in muscle health. Muscles don't perform well under chaotic energy patterns. They need stable fuel, not a rush, not a drop. Lower sugar fruits, rich in fiber and antioxidants, like berries, pears, or green apples, support that stability. They don't flood your bloodstream with excess glucose, and they come with nutrients that actually protect muscle tissue and reduce oxidative stress. This isn't about restriction, it's about smarter choices. Instead of piling on sweet tropical fruits or relying on fruit-heavy smoothies, it's more helpful to portion them wisely and pair them with sources of protein, healthy fats, or fiber. Even more so, consider replacing high-sugar fruits with lower glycemic alternatives when your goal is to maintain strong, reliable legs. As we age, we want to continue walking with confidence, climbing stairs without hesitation, and standing up without struggle. These abilities are not just granted, they're protected through everyday habits. And what you eat, even something as seemingly harmless as a piece of fruit, plays a role in that protection. Not all sugar is bad, but excess, especially from concentrated fruit sources, can chip away at the strength you rely on each day. And now that we've looked closely at the hidden cost of sugary fruits, you might be wondering, what else could be quietly weakening your legs that looks perfectly healthy on the surface? Let's keep going. Certainly. Here's a 700-word focused expansion of the second key point from the senior health script. Let's talk strictly about the topic. Only discuss what it means, no unnecessary points. The key discussion should stay focused on the subject, and in such a way that it leaves me eager for the next page. When we talk about leg strength and muscle stability in seniors, the role of inflammation can no longer be overlooked. Chronic, low-grade inflammation is one of the most overlooked enemies of healthy aging, particularly when it comes to muscles, joints, and energy levels. While many know to avoid obvious sources like processed meats or fried foods, far fewer realize that certain seemingly healthy fruits can contribute directly to this inflammatory state, making it harder for the body to maintain strength, especially in the lower body. Some fruits, especially those high in fructose and low in fiber, can trigger or worsen inflammation when consumed frequently and in large portions. Fruits like pineapples, mangoes, and overly ripe bananas are high on the glycemic scale, meaning they rapidly convert to sugar in the bloodstream. This quick sugar rush prompts the body to release insulin, and over time, constant insulin spikes can lead to metabolic stress. When that stress persists, inflammation follows. And inflammation does more than cause stiffness or swelling. It interferes with how muscles repair themselves and respond to physical activity. The aging body doesn't regenerate muscle tissue as quickly as it did in earlier years. It needs help clean fuel, rest, and most of all, a low inflammation environment. But when inflammation is chronically elevated, subtly it affects muscle fibers' ability to grow back stronger after daily wear. This is especially true in the legs, which bear the weight of the body and serve as the foundation for all mobility. If those muscles are constantly being bombarded by inflammatory signals due to poor diet choices, their strength will decline faster, and recovery after basic activities will feel slower, heavier, and more tiring. What complicates things is that fruits are often seen as guilt-free. After all, they're natural, come from the earth, and have vitamins. But not all fruits are created equal when it comes to inflammatory potential. Some contain high levels of sugars that overwhelm the liver and digestive system, leading to the production of advanced glycation end products, AGEs, a technical term for compounds that speed up aging in tissues, particularly in joints and muscles. AGEs are a major contributor to chronic inflammation, and their formation is accelerated when sugar intake is unchecked, even when that sugar comes from fruit. This doesn't mean eliminating fruit entirely. It means choosing fruits that work with your body, not against it. Berries, cherries, and citrus fruits like oranges and grapefruits are known to have anti-inflammatory properties. They contain phytonutrients like flavonoids and anthocyanins, which actively counteract inflammation at the cellular level. These fruits don't just avoid making inflammation worse, they help soothe it. They allow muscles to recover, joints to stay flexible, and energy to last longer throughout the day. On the other hand, consuming the wrong types of fruit daily creates a steady undercurrent of inflammation that might not be obvious at first. You may not break out in hives or experience dramatic pain. Instead, it might feel like you're always a bit tired, like your legs take a bit longer to warm up in the morning, or your endurance during a walk is slowly shrinking. This gradual change is how inflammation works. It creeps in, affecting your resilience, your comfort, and eventually your confidence. The good news is that inflammation is not a permanent state, it's responsive. Change what you put on your plate, and your body begins to change its response. Replace high-sugar fruits with low-sugar, high-antioxidant choices. Drink more water to flush inflammatory byproducts. Combine fruit with protein or healthy fats to slow sugar absorption. And most importantly, pay attention to how you feel after certain meals. If your legs feel heavier, your joints stiffer, or your energy drained after a fruit-heavy snack, that's your body signaling that the food you're eating isn't working for you. We're not looking for a miracle, fruit, or a trendy diet. We're aiming for steady, thoughtful choices that reduce unnecessary stress on the body. Inflammation is invisible, but its effects are not. Your joints feel it. Your muscles feel it. Your ability to stand strong, walk far, or climb stairs safely depends on what you feed your body day in and day out. And when you feed it in a way that keeps inflammation low, you create space for strength to grow again. Now that you understand how even natural sugars from fruit can create an internal storm, what's next is understanding which alternatives actively fight that storm. The story gets more promising from here. ChatGPT said, "Certainly. Here's a focused 700-word narrative, expanding the third key point from a senior health scripts based on your instructions. Let's talk strictly about the topic. Only discuss what it means, no unnecessary points. The key discussion should stay focused on the subject, and in such a way that it leaves me eager for the next page. When we talk about fruit and joint health, one area that often goes unnoticed is the impact of oxalates, natural compounds found in many fruits and vegetables. Oxalates aren't inherently bad, but when consumed in excess, especially by individuals over 60 with changing metabolism and kidney function, they can quietly begin to interfere with how well joints move, how flexible you feel, and even how much discomfort you carry throughout the day. The real issue begins when high oxalate fruits become a daily habit rather than an occasional choice. Oxalates bind to minerals in the body, especially calcium, and form crystals. These crystals can deposit in joints or tissues, creating stiffness, pain, or inflammation. For someone already dealing with joint wear and tear from years of movement, this additional layer of irritation can feel like a constant obstacle to comfort and mobility. While oxalates are also found in leafy greens and nuts, some fruits like spurt, kiwi, blackberries, and even older rhubarb stalks contain enough oxalate to tip the scale if eaten too often. The body is generally equipped to handle small amounts of oxalate. But as we age, the kidneys responsible for filtering and excreting excess may not function as efficiently. That slight reduction in performance can turn what was once a harmless compound into something that silently builds up. And while it may not cause an obvious issue at first, over time, high oxalate intake can contribute to sharp discomfort in the knees, hips, or even smaller joints in the hands and feet. This is often mistaken for general aging or arthritis, when, in fact, diet may be playing a bigger role than expected. What complicates this further is that oxalates don't always produce symptoms directly. That's what makes them deceptive. They might not make you feel worse after one meal or even after a few weeks, but they accumulate and over months or years. This buildup can influence not just joint function but also how your muscles feel after use. You might start to notice that your legs feel heavy or uncooperative during movement, or that walking upstairs feels tighter, slower, and less stable than before. These aren't just aging issues, they can be signs that the body is dealing with more internal resistance than necessary. The key isn't to fear oxalates but to become aware of which fruits are contributing the most and to consider how frequently you're consuming them. For seniors already dealing with stiffness, arthritis, or a family history of kidney stones, limiting high oxalate fruits can give the body space to recover and feel freer again. And there are plenty of low-oxalate alternatives that provide similar vitamins and fiber without the risk. Apples, cantaloupe, watermelon, and grapes are examples of fruits that are typically safer and gentler on the system. They hydrate, nourish, and support energy without silently stressing the joints. Another important aspect is pairing. Eating calcium-rich foods alongside moderate amounts of oxalates can help bind them in the gut before they even reach the bloodstream, reducing the chance of them crystallizing in joints or kidneys. For example, eating yogurt with berries or pairing a piece of fruit with a slice of cheese can make a measurable difference. It's not about restriction, it's about smarter combinations that respect the body's current needs. Hydration also plays a role. Water helps flush excess oxalates through the kidneys and reduces the chance of buildup. Seniors often underestimate how much their hydration levels affect joint mobility and muscle performance. When the body is well hydrated, better equipped to handle metabolic byproducts like oxalates, that means less stiffness, smoother movement, and more ease in everyday tasks. Most importantly, understanding this topic gives back a sense of control. You don't have to wait for stiffness to become pain, or for discomfort to lead to immobility. By simply reducing the intake of specific fruits known to contribute to oxalate buildup and choosing joint-friendly alternatives, you actively support your body's comfort and strength. It's not a dramatic shift, it's a subtle, quiet course correction that leads to long-term ease. And now that we've examined how something so small like an invisible compound in fruit can interfere with your movement and energy, it's time to ask, what other everyday foods are quietly working against your strength and stability, and which ones are secretly supporting it? Let's move forward to find out. Let's talk strictly about the topic. Only discuss what it means, no unnecessary points. The key discussion should stay focused on the subject, and in such a way that it leaves me eager for the next page. When it comes to joint discomfort or declining mobility in seniors, sugar often hides behind the scenes as one of the most underestimated contributors. While many people associate sugar with issues like diabetes or weight gain, its influence on inflammation, especially in aging joints, is far more direct and disruptive than most realize. As we age, our body becomes increasingly sensitive to inflammatory triggers. Sugar, particularly refined or added sugars, is one of the most potent dietary sources of this inflammation. Even fruits that are seemingly natural can carry high concentrations of fructose that, when consumed in excess, lead to the same inflammatory cascade. When a person over 60 regularly consumes fruits high in sugar like grapes, mangoes, ripe bananas, or pineapples, it doesn't just raise blood sugar for a moment. It triggers a longer-term systemic reaction where certain inflammatory markers begin to rise. These markers, like C-reactive protein, CRP, are directly linked to joint stiffness, swelling, and discomfort. For someone already navigating wear and tear in the knees, hips, or spine, that background inflammation becomes the difference between an easy walk and one that feels like dragging resistance bands with every step. The challenge isn't just in what these fruits contain, but in how frequently they're consumed and how the body responds with age. Seniors often eat fruit believing it's a guaranteed healthy choice, unaware that the cumulative sugar load from natural sources can disrupt joint health, drain energy, and amplify fatigue. It's a slow, subtle process, but one that compounds daily. With each sugary fruit snack, the blood sugar spikes, insulin reacts, and small amounts of inflammatory byproducts are left behind. Over time, this internal residue settles into tissues and joints, making everyday movement feel heavier, less fluid, and more strained. What complicates matters further is that these effects aren't always immediate. The inflammation caused by sugar can simmer under the surface for days or even weeks before showing up as stiffness, aching, or morning joint tightness. This delay makes it difficult to trace the source. A senior may blame aging, weather, or even old injuries when in reality, it's dietary sugars subtly undermining the body's balance. These sugar-rich fruits, especially when juiced or dried, are even more concentrated. A single glass of orange juice or a handful of raisins may contain more sugar than the body is equipped to handle efficiently after 60. Now, this isn't a call to eliminate all fruit. It's about identifying which Fruits tip the balance toward chronic inflammation and replacing them with options that support rather than sabotage joint health. Fruits like berries, kiwi, citrus, and wholeform are lower in sugar and higher in anti-inflammatory compounds like vitamin C and flavonoids. These compounds actively protect cartilage, cushion joints, and reduce oxidative stress, the very things seniors need more of, not less. Portion control also matters. A senior doesn't need to fear a slice of melon or the occasional plum, but repeated high-volume consumption of high-sugar fruits can turn what's meant to be a health food into a burden. Pairing fruit with a source of fat or proteins, such as a few almonds or a slice of cheese, can also slow sugar absorption and reduce the inflammatory response. These small adjustments allow for enjoyment without consequences. Another overlooked issue is glycation, a process where sugar molecules bind to proteins in the body, including the collagen in joints. This binding stiffens tissues, makes joints less elastic, and contributes to the creaky, tight sensation many older adults describe. Glycation is worsened by chronically high sugar intake, even from fruits. By reducing sugar exposure, especially from the most sugary fruits, seniors can slow this process and maintain more natural movement. This is where empowerment begins. Understanding that not all fruits serve your joints equally allows for conscious choices rooted in care rather than restriction. The goal is not to create fear around fruit, but to refine which types best match the body's needs at this stage in life. Awareness leads to freedom, the freedom to move better, feel lighter, and avoid unnecessary pain. Each change, no matter how small, is a step toward protecting what matters most: mobility, independence, and ease. And now, if sugar can do that much damage quietly, what about the kinds of fats we unknowingly pair with those sugary fruits every day? Let's continue and uncover what really supports your strength and what's silently stealing it. You said, let's talk strictly about the topic. Only discuss what it means, no unnecessary points. The key discussion should stay focused on the subject, and in such a way that it leaves me eager for the next page. When we talk about energy levels in seniors, especially those over 60, hydration often gets dismissed as too basic to matter. But in truth, staying properly hydrated is one of the most underappreciated elements of maintaining strength, joint flexibility, and even overall mobility. Most people associate dehydration with thirst or dry skin, but for older adults, the signs can be much more subtle: slower recovery from walks, stiffness in the morning, or even a gradual decline in balance and coordination. That's not just aging, it's often the quiet impact of not drinking enough water. The body's water content naturally decreases with age, meaning seniors are already working with a reduced margin. Muscles, cartilage, and connective tissues depend heavily on water to stay supple and function smoothly. Even mild dehydration, just 1 or 2% less water than needed, can increase joint friction, leading to inflammation, aches, and a sensation of heaviness in the legs. When water is lacking, the body also struggles to deliver nutrients efficiently to the muscles, leaving them fatigued, underfueled, and prone to weakness. The relationship between hydration and joint health is especially important to understand. Synovial fluid, the thick liquid that cushions joints, is composed primarily of water. Without adequate hydration, this fluid thins out, reducing its ability to protect the cartilage from wear and tear. The result? Increased joint stiffness and more painful movement, particularly in weight-bearing joints, like the knees and hips. Seniors often report their knees creaking more or their legs feeling heavy after a short walk, but rarely suspect that something as simple as water intake might be involved. Another critical role hydration plays is in maintaining blood volume and circulation. Dehydration causes the blood to thicken, making it harder for oxygen and nutrients to reach muscle cells efficiently. This slower nutrient delivery leads to a sluggish feeling, especially in the legs, where gravity already makes circulation more challenging. Seniors who don't hydrate well may notice they tire more quickly during physical activity, or that they recover more slowly from muscle soreness. It's not always muscle loss or joint damage, often it's just the body's fluid network working below its optimal capacity. Beyond that, dehydration affects the nervous system's ability to communicate clearly with muscles. When the body lacks adequate water, electrolyte imbalances can occur, impacting muscle contraction and nerve signaling. This may lead to leg cramps, twitching, or sudden weakness that's often misattributed to aging or medication side effects. Replenishing fluids with not just water, but also essential minerals like magnesium, potassium, and sodium can help regulate these functions, ensuring that the body remains stable, coordinated, and strong. One common barrier is that many older adults avoid drinking too much water out of fear of frequent bathroom trips, especially at night. This creates a cycle of chronic low-level dehydration that builds over time, slowly draining energy and making movement feel more burdensome. But hydration doesn't have to come from large gulps all at once. Small, steady sips throughout the day alongside water-rich foods, like cucumbers, oranges, and soups, can help maintain fluid balance without overwhelming the bladder. It's also important to note that by the time you feel thirsty, you're already mildly dehydrated. Thirst is a lagging indicator, and in seniors, the thirst response itself can diminish with age. That means relying on thirst alone to guide water intake simply isn't enough. A proactive approach like setting reminders or pairing hydration with meals can help maintain energy levels, reduce joint pain, and even improve cognitive clarity, which is closely linked to fluid balance in the brain. When all of this comes together, the impact is real. Joints move more freely, muscles feel less tired, steps feel lighter. And instead of blaming age, you realize that small, daily habits can reverse a surprising amount of that fatigue. Hydration isn't just about quenching thirst. It's about maintaining the internal environment where movement happens painlessly and with strength. If proper hydration can restore energy and protect joints to that degree, what about the impact of the foods we pair with our fluids? In the next section, we'll look at exactly what kinds of nutrient combinations accelerate recovery, reduce inflammation, and help you reclaim power in your legs without complicated diets or overwhelming restrictions. Ask ChatGPT